Pull up a bar stool. All right, I'm back. So I am continuing a little theme. I gotta tell you, it's been a lot of fun to go back and reminisce and remind myself of some things. As I recently hit 10-year anniversary of being laid off, of starting my website, just this journey that eventually started my business. And I'm basically reflecting now on that first year. Now, last episode, we talked about months 2 to 7. And there's some big things that happened during that time. Today, we're going to talk about the rest of that first year. So months 8 through 12. And, oh, man, it's fun. It's some good stuff. So if you got a drink, open it with me. If you don't have one, maybe go to the fridge real quick. But no pressure, no peer pressure at all. I just want you to sit back, relax, pop a bottle. Let's do it. Yeah, once again, I get spoiled pouring the Guinnesses where you just dump it and it flows the way it's supposed to. I've got today an oatmeal stout by Slow Elk. And just a dreadful pour, just an amateur pour. And so I'll have to wait a little bit for this foam to go down. But hey, how's it going? I'm John Loomer from johnloomer.com and John Loomer Digital on Facebook. I'm your host here on the PUBCAST. So, holy cow, man. 10 years, it's a good way to make you feel old. Also, just seeing some of the stuff that I did, and there were times where I felt a little uncomfortable. Other times I felt proud, and mostly I feel great that I've made it this far 10 years later. But that first year, so much of it has to do with the things I did and experimented with and failed at and just tried. During really difficult times. So I'm going to keep trying to fill up this beer here. Today, primary focus, I want to kind of go through, okay, well, where was I now content-wise? Because that was really critical to the growth of my business. What were some changes I was making along the way, whether it's my website. Got a new design again. I went through a whole bunch of different designs and stuff early on. I changed my tagline, which I think is also representative of where I was at that point. Just where I was in terms of my audience. So people ask me, what should I expect, email list wise, Facebook page wise, whatever. Now look, this is 10 years later, so I'm not even going to try to say that everything's the same, but this will at least give you a point of reference of where I was. I talk about my podcast. I actually started that year, and I listened to my first episode today from 2012, and I can't believe it's been around that long. That's not on iTunes, as far as I know. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it's not on iTunes. And it wasn't even called the PUBCAST at that point. So that was just a trip to listen to. We'll talk about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about revenue. We're finally, some revenue starting to come. But there's a big but to that. So I need a quick drink, and then we're going to jump into some content stuff. All right. Cheers. Oh, yeah. Very oatmeal-y and stout. So, first up, I'll talk about it all day long, all week long, all day, every day, about how important content creation was for my development as a writer, as someone who could eventually sell his content, for building my email list, for SEO. Look, I was never, and this actually came up in that first podcast episode, I was never an SEO guy where it's like, oh, keyword this, keyword that. I just churned it out, and that resulted quickly in me getting high ranking in Google. So it was 5 months, right? Did I start in April on this one? April, May, June, July, August. Yep. So these 5 months, I wrote 134 blog posts in those 5 months. That's crazy, right? So, and even again, I was listening to that podcast episode. Someone had asked me about my content strategy, and I talked about how I was writing every day, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I wrote more than that, but that was part of my routine. That doesn't mean that needs to be our routine these days. It's obviously not mine, but I've also kind of built a foundation now. So 134 blog posts. What I was finally starting to see was some consistent traffic. So during that 5 months, I was now over 500,000 page views during those 5 months. So, and I finally started hitting 100,000 page views a month beginning in May. You could make the argument it was April. It was like 99,000 something in April. And again, that was writing every day. It was also a matter of finding stuff that hit, making some mistakes earlier on where I was chasing traffic. I wasn't really doing that in this April to August period, but I was still getting traffic for stuff that probably wasn't ideal. But I wrote it for the purpose of driving traffic only. So I'm going to get to, what kind of the content was here in a second. I think it's important to kind of talk about, okay, what was my strategy? And because what was my true SEO strategy, even though I wasn't really doing keywords and whatnot, I was basically thinking, what is my target audience asking? And this is straight up Marcus Sheridan stuff. I even mentioned it in that first podcast. Marcus Sheridan, if you're not familiar with him, great dude, sales guy, was formerly the Sales Lion. And he would talk about how take the questions you get in. The salespeople get whatever they're getting. And it's usually, for him, it was about pools. It's like, how much does a pool cost? What kind of pools are there? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, you could even see it reflected in some of the content I wrote. How much does it cost to run Facebook ads? When's the best time of day to post on Facebook? How do you create a Facebook ad? There's all this kind of stuff. That was the starting point. The questions I was getting were the titles of my blog posts, and I think that ultimately paid off. So let's dig in a little bit to what that content was after I get this drink. Cheers. So there's certainly some good and bad during this period of time in terms of my content. And dude, I'm not embarrassed at all of the bad, because you've got to fail, you got to make mistakes to learn from it. And that's what happened. I mean, the bad was I was still seeing, and I say bad, but it's still good that I was getting traffic, so I can't complain too much. But early on, when I was focused on things like privacy issues and Facebook hoaxes and stuff like that, so turn off close friends notifications. That was my number 2 traffic driver. It gave me 32,000 page views during that time. I wrote, I think, 3 different blog posts on how to get Facebook ad coupons. How to get a $50 Facebook ad coupon, 27,000 views. Facebook Jumpstart, free Facebook ad coupon, because there's this promotion Facebook is doing, 23,000 page views. How to get a free $25,000 Facebook ad coupon, 7,000 views. So we're looking at 57,000 page views just there. Now, granted, that's going to attract people who are advertisers. Good. It's also going to attract people who are looking to do things for free. For me, bad. If I want to run a business, and I didn't really realize this at the time, because I was like, yeah, I'm looking for Facebook ad coupons too. Because I was trying to do everything for nothing. And kind of an example of that, from this podcast, I was talking about how I was promoting stuff to my fans. And I was spending like $2 a day to do that because my audience was so small. But it provided a ton of effectiveness because it was a strong audience. But anyway, I needed revenue. I needed money. Facebook scare, unchecked comments and likes, 10,000 page views. So there was some bad stuff that was generating revenue. Now the good stuff, and I think I've talked about this in the last episode, is I created the one design thing I created, which was good, which is a dimensions infographic. And that was before I started having Leah do it for me, which she started doing it going forward. That drove 161,000 page views during those 5 months alone. And I would often hear, I'm about to sneeze here, sorry, going forward, that people found me from that infographic. But I wrote so back to like what was kind of in my top 10 at that time, there was some good stuff beyond that. Other stuff, again, it was like about profile photo size impacting the cover photo, because there are new dimensions that generate 18,000 views. Dimensions for Facebook timeline for pages, 14,000 views. Ultimate guide for Facebook timeline for pages, 11,000 views. Those things are all good. I think a couple others that maybe weren't in the top 10, but were, I think, pretty critical posts. Your Facebook posts reach 16% of fans. The horror. So this started to become more of my style, whereas a bit more editorial and sometimes sarcastic and blunt. And I was just going on and on about people freaking out about the fact that you're only reaching 16% of your fans, which back then was people freaked out about. But today people will be like, yeah. And I tried to talk people off the ledge back then about how, like, really? You expect to reach more? Like, you expect to reach everybody? That was the whole thought. I should reach everybody. So, but that was kind of a pivotal, I think I got a lot of attention for that. Big one. June 25th, how to use Facebook Power Editor. You remember Power Editor? Oh, my boy. Yeah. So that was a big one. Not that blog post drove a lot of traffic, but that would be an eventual product. I don't know if it was a year later. It would be later on. That would be pretty critical to my business. So the nice thing as I look back at what I published during that time, it did finally seem that I was getting a focus. And it was Facebook marketing. It was Facebook ads. There's no more of this personal usage of Facebook. There's no more screwing around with Twitter and Pinterest and Google Plus and all that nonsense. I started to have a focus so I could start to have something I was known for. All right, so we'll talk about some more here in a second. Cheers. So the other thing, as I was going back to that and just reminiscing, man, it's good stuff. Made some changes to the website. You may recall, I think it was in March, I finally got a professionally done logo created. First time I had done that, and it was just a friend did it for me. Didn't charge me. Still use that logo today. I may move away from it one day, but it's lasted me well. And then I went with a completely new website design in April. So this was important. I know that, man, I'd have to go back and look at the various themes I used. I used a lot of free themes. I know I had someone who made a blunt assessment that my website didn't look professional, and it needed to. And I don't recall if there was a design before this one or not. There may have been. But in, what was that, April, this is when I used, what is it called? Oh, it's driving me crazy. This theme, what was it called? I'm going to figure it out. Genesis Framework. Yeah. So I used Genesis Framework, and I used that for several years. But looking back at it now, it's 9 plus years later, it's not bad. It's not a terrible design. For once, I had like a kind of front and center way to sign up for my newsletter. And you could tell, because I have a screenshot of the way that looked, which I love that I took that. I have categories of content, and it's Facebook marketing, Facebook advertising, Facebook timeline. Yeah, I'm finally figuring it out at that point. I've also got a link there for free consultation. Oh no, what's that all about? So anyway, new website design in April, new tagline was coming very soon after that, which is social media that makes a difference. And I can still remember the conversation where that came from, and a lot of these changes come from conversations I had with John Robinson, my backup CEO, business manager. We still talk all the time. He's still part of the team now. And I just remember that coming up. He's like, how? So he, like, I can't even remember how he framed it, but he's like, how, do we show your target audience, how to use social media in a way that makes a difference? It meant well. At the time, it made sense. Where that lined up was social media that makes a difference for nonprofits, for small businesses. Part of that was that was my life at that point. I worked with nonprofits. I did some consulting for Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. It's childhood cancer foundation, amazing. They hit close to home. Before I was laid off, my most recent job was with the American Cancer Society, so I'm used to pinching pennies on the budget. But also it had something to do with my lack of confidence and not thinking I can help the big budget advertiser. So my focus on the small business nonprofit with social media makes a difference. Looking back, probably a mistake. But hey, that was part of the evolution, and that's where I was at that point. All right, need a quick drink here. Cheers. So where was I at that moment? In terms of my audience, so this is, as of that podcast I listened to, which was May, I had 3,000 Facebook fans, we called them at the time. And I was proud of that. I was proud of that boy. I got to tell you, that was also probably a really well-built 3,000 too. I really think it was. Because they were a pretty highly engaged group of people. But 3,000 over a 6-month period. Again, I wasn't spending very much, though, to be completely honest with you. A lot of the ads I was running, though, would be for likes, for page likes. But 3,000. I had, my list size was about 1,000 people at that point in May, at least. I don't know what it was in August. Again, I felt pretty good about that because you may recall I didn't start building my list at all until the very end of 2011. So like, it was like December 18th or something. I had an ebook. And then so I actually created another ebook. Oh man, if I gotta find, the 6 secrets to Facebook marketing success. And I think I actually had somebody help me with the design on the cover image or whatever you want to call that. But so that was my new list builder as of May. It was May. The 6 secrets of Facebook marketing success. And going back through it, man, it's good stuff. So it's a PDF. And so it's broken up into sections. It's the 6 secrets, right? So we got images, everything. So going through profile photo, cover photo, tab icons. Remember tabs. Shared photos, linked thumbnails, milestones, just image stuff. being interesting, engaging, diverse content. Number 2. Number 3, be strategic about tabs. Oh, tabs were everything apparently back then. Number 4, deals, offers, and discounts. So offering value. Number 5, budget for advertising. So target ads at non-fans, target ads at fans. Man, I've got a... And then number 6, listen to your fans and your numbers. I think I need to find some of the stuff about ads if I can, because that's got to be some gold in there. Targeting ads of... Yeah. I don't think I even have a lot of images. I don't think I have any images. That's too bad. I could tell you though, I remember telling people repeatedly I was spending like $1 a day at one point. Probably especially when I was relying on these Facebook ad coupons and stuff like that. Oh my goodness, this is just good stuff. But anyway, so that was where my audience was at this point in the middle of all this. All right, I need a quick drink. Cheers. It's good beer, by the way. So how about that podcast? So first of all, I was listening to Marcus Sheridan. I think he put out a blog post. It was like how to publish your first podcast or something like that. And he used some tools that I don't even think it involved iTunes at all. But he gave me some nice step-by-step that I could finally do. It's like, I can freaking do this, man. And so it ended up being kind of self-hosted, right? So he recommended this plugin, talked about, I think, sound effects and stuff like that. So what was great is I found it because I went back into my media on my website from 2012, and I had it hosted there. My first ever episode. That's when it was called The Podcast with No Name. Initially, I think it was the first 4 episodes of Podcast with No Name. It still didn't become the PUBCAST yet. Then it became John Limmer Talks. John Limmer Talks, ... And it was like about X, whatever. It's kind of lame. But, listen to that first episode, though. And by the way, eventually became the PUBCAST. I had my friend Mike on. Oh, what was Mike? Who was Mike? Mike started I can't remember his last name right now. But he's a super young dude. Part of a startup. And I had him on like a video version of an interview, podcast, whatever. And we decided to drink while we were doing it. And I think he even mentioned the word PUBCAST. Or maybe someone else did. But anyway, I was listening to this same intro music, which is kind of crazy. Bad mic. Like, I'm not really sure what microphone I was using. I've been using the form of the Blue Yeti for a long time. Might not have been May, but probably within a few months of that, I was like, oh, I got. Someone probably said something like, you gotta get a better mic, dude. Let's get some distortion. But I didn't have like a lot of breaks in it or anything. But other than that, it's like, it was kind of a similar format. I expected myself to be really nervous listening to it because I kind of remember being nervous when I recorded it. I sounded all right. But so I basically kind of covered a few topics, answered some questions that people had submitted, and kind of ended abruptly. But so yeah, it was hosted on my website, so I just had a player that I used on my site, published a blog post and said, hey, here's my podcast. So the main thing, though, the learning there is that it was something. Like, it gave me the experience of recording a podcast, first of all. Like, how do I construct this thing? What's the format? What do we call it? What do I use for sound effects? What do I do about my microphone? All that. It at least got me going. And, but bottom line is it helped me reach another audience who likes to consume content in a different way. And so I'm grateful that I started. Now I don't do my podcast, whatever you want to call it, as religiously as I did back then. But I still enjoy it, man. Sit down with a beer, talk it out a little bit. It's good stuff. So anyway, I kept it going really consistently. So it started out as the podcast with no name. It was John Loomer Talks. I didn't yet hit the point where it was the PUBCAST. But I also wasn't publishing it anymore to my website, I think, once we hit August. So it might have been the PUBCAST by that point. Anyway, we got one topic that's conspicuously missing at this point. We're going to talk about it here in a second. Cheers. All right, so revenue. Like, what am I doing? How am I making money? Right? I can tell you, I wasn't making much. So, as you probably noticed, I still haven't mentioned selling a product because I haven't created a product yet. We're talking about a year after I started my website, after I got laid off, after I started my website. I first started building my list. Actually, I first started my Facebook page in November. First started building my list end of December. I had another list builder in May. Started a podcast in May. I'm still not selling anything, but I was getting traffic, as you saw or heard. 100,000 page views a month now. We're consistent. Part of that too is, look, that list isn't big, but 1,000 people on that email list, and they're fresh. They're driving pretty consistently too when I email them. So, affiliate marketing. Oh boy, you got to understand. Also, during this first year, I don't know what to do. I'm not prepared for running my own business. I am reading up, following everybody. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to do what they do. So the next logical thing to do, especially with traffic, is promote affiliate products. So I started with Short Stack, which, I don't know if you're familiar with Short Stack. They're awesome, by the way. They're a great company. And so Short Stack, Genesis Framework, Aweber, Agorapulse, all really good starts, right? Good companies. And the one thing I would say is I made sure that they were all products I was using and I loved, and I believed in the business, the people behind it. Because it wasn't the other way around. It wasn't a matter of I'm going to use this thing because I can get money from it. It's like I was using this thing and like, oh wait, they've got an affiliate link. I can actually make money for using this and promoting it. So I wrote a review for Short Stack. I remember doing this section of my site where the things I use. So it's like the things I use to run my business, and it was like Short Stack and Genesis Framework and Aweber and Agorapulse. So really, those are critical things I needed to use to run my business. So I actually did okay with affiliate marketing. Now, I wish I could tell you how much I was making, but it was never, like, look, I could never do as well at my peak in this business selling my own products as I did, or the other way around. Selling my own products, I will always make more money than promoting someone else's and taking a slice. That said, I also started selling ad space on my website. So I found a page from May where I'd already sold some ad space. And so I had a couple of ad units on the side, at the top of blog posts, the bottom of blog posts. I mean, I'd already sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the time of an image that I took. So I was doing okay in terms of selling it. Now, I couldn't tell you what I was selling it for. It was probably something like $500 a month. Actually, no, I've got it here. $250 a month, $180 a month, $210 a month. Oh, no. Some of these are own it or share it. So $400 a month, $400 a month, $450. So, you do the math. It's we're looking at maybe $1,000 a month in ad units on my website, plus the affiliate revenue. That wasn't a ton, but I was getting by. I was starting to figure it out. So, long story short, that's what I was doing. I eventually realized two things. Instead of using that real estate to promote someone else's business, I could use it to promote my own products. Now, I didn't have a product at the time, so I was like, who cares? So that's the first thing when it comes to ad units. I have a very negative view of affiliate marketing in general. Let me explain. Once I hear somebody is promoting a product and getting a cut of it, I no longer take that seriously. Because now I'm like, well, I don't know why you're promoting this. It may be because you love it and you also get a cut. It may be because you use it and you also get a cut. But I even go back and look at some of these articles and pages and blog posts and stuff, and I'm like, I can see that influence of money on my promotion of this product. And that makes me feel really uncomfortable. So when it comes to affiliate stuff and promoting other people's products, the thing that now granted, it took until I could afford to stop affiliate marketing that it really hit home, okay? But it's like, I knew that I could be more valuable to you when I recommend a product if you knew I didn't get a cut if you went and signed up for that product, right? Because then it's like, oh, well, you actually are recommending that. Instead of like, you should use this product. It's awesome. I've been using it forever. Go to my affiliate link. Like, oh, it just makes me feel dirty. And whenever I hear that from other people, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to use that product. I don't know if you really do like it, or if it's just that they have a really good affiliate arrangement and you're going to get a bunch of money. So, but I also understand that everyone's got to make their paycheck. And I would say, long term, two of the best things I ever did for my business is first of all, I guess three things. First of all, created my own product. Didn't rely on other people's products. Second of all, ad space, used it to promote my own stuff. Use that real estate. And third, if I ever had something that I'm like, you should use this, and I had something to recommend, I don't get a cut out of it. I intentionally now do not get a cut because I think that that's more valuable. It's easier said than done. If you're making no money, hey, and I think the way I set it up is a good way to do it, right? Products you already use that are important to your business that you can truthfully say are awesome, have at it, right? But you always got to be very clear that you're getting a cut out of that, right? All right, one final drink here. Last call. So that's it. We're a year in, still barely making any money. But I'm finally starting to find some ways to make some money. It's going to be a couple more months. So I think it's 14 months post-layoff where I create my first product. And it's not a good product, but it's a product. And that's the key point. We'll talk about that in the next episode. I think we're going to talk about that whole second year, because that second year is pretty important. I think you can see that momentum coming right now, right? That momentum's there. We're building, man. We're building in the right direction. But for anyone who's struggling, who's starting their own business and is frustrated, even though I feel really lucky 10 years later, and I feel like I hit my stride quickly, I wasn't making money though. Like I couldn't do much of anything for more than a year. So no, it takes time. It does take time. But I hope this helps you. If you want to hear more of this content, more of this stuff related to starting my business and entrepreneurship and whatever it be, first thing is know that this is fourth in this series. So, gonna burp there. We're gonna hold that down. Fourth in the series, so you can watch and listen to the other three. This is also on YouTube, by the way. It's on Facebook, depending on where you're listening and watching. It's also on iTunes. So feel free to watch those others. But I would love to jump into this topic more often. But I need commitment from you that this is something you want. So do you want a community? Do you want a product? What do you want? Or maybe just talk about this on a regular basis on the podcast. I could put together a video series. Hell, whatever. We'll figure it out. But let me know. At John Loomer on Twitter. John@johnloomer.com. I don't give that email address out anywhere else. I'm like, no one listens to this. But John@johnloomer.com. John Loomer Digital on Facebook. Find me. You can find me places. But I really hope you found this useful and fun and interesting. Because honestly, I've had a blast going back and looking at that first year. I'm looking forward to looking at the second. We're not going to go through every year, by the way. We're going to look at the second. But there's definitely this important transformation that happens from years 1 to 3-ish. I would say the most important things are creating the products and creating the paid community. But we'll get to all that. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, do awesome things. I'm out.